So we are at the launch of Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 8 series where we have three foldables now. We have Galaxy Fold 8, Fold 8 Ultra and the Flip 8. We have Akshay Gupta joining us at the Digit Show. Akshay, I have a lot of questions. First of all, welcome to the Digit Show.
Thank you.
But I have a lot of questions related to these gorgeous devices that I'm going to ask. But before starting with any of that, I want to know how has the response for Fold 7 been?
Well, I'm very happy to share that the Fold 7 is one of the most successful foldables we have ever had here in India. Fold 7 was based on three key principles. We, for the first time, introduced the Ultra experience on the foldables with Fold 7. Whether it was an ultra sleek and slim device at just 4.2 mm or it having an ultra camera with a 200 megapixel camera for the first time. And it was also equipped with an ultra experience which essentially introduced Galaxy AI with multimodal capabilities on the foldables for the first time. And the response from the consumers has been extremely phenomenal and they loved it. And I think that was actually a drawing board for us in terms of introducing the Fold 8 Ultra and the Fold 8 this year.
Right. So when we talk about the Fold 8,
Yep.
I would say that this aspect ratio is something that we are seeing for the first time on a foldable.
Yeah.
So what is exactly the reason behind, because this is the foldable factor that we are familiar with, but if you look at this, so these two, I don't know how visible are they going to be in this lighting, but these two are very different aspect ratio. So what inspiration, what were the discussions when you were at the drawing board sessions and something like that, that convinced you, okay, this is something we need to go forward with?
Okay, I think this actually came after we observed how the behavior of consumer is changing. Over the past couple of years, what we have seen is the way consumers are actually consuming content is changing. Consumer is these days not married to one form factor of content.
Fair.
Okay. For example, for once he would be or he or she would be consuming a short or a reels. And then when the consumer is at his home, he would be consuming an OTT content on his device, right? Now, the challenge is that the reels or the shorts natively are in a aspect ratio which is not seen on smartphones across in the industry. And when you are consuming an OTT, that's also a ratio which a normal smartphone actually tries to adapt to. Right? So what you see on the screen is actually a cropped out version, or you see a lot of black bands on the top or on the sides. That behavior, consumer behavior, actually inspired us to create this form factor. Now the beauty of this form factor is that when you go into the cover screen, now the cover screen, the aspect ratio is actually 10:16, which is the closest that you get for consuming reels and shorts. So when I'm consuming my reels and shorts, I just need to be on my cover screen. But when I'm at home and I'm trying to watch a movie, let's say, I just open it and now the aspect ratio becomes 4:3. Now natively, any long form or any movie is actually shot in 16:9. So this is actually the form factor. So what you will get is end-to-end content without any black bands. So it becomes even more immersive. And lastly, like reading books, articles, or filling your website forms, or everything happens a lot on smartphones, right? These days, people prefer to use a smartphone for doing all of this rather than going to a laptop or logging in, just because of the mobility that it gives. And once you turn this into a portrait mode, it becomes a 3:4. Which is actually the aspect ratio in which books are written or in which a web page is actually designed. So like usually when I go onto a website and trying to fill a form, sometimes some of the fields are here, there, so I have to zoom out or zoom in to see where to fill in. Or what I do is I click and say request desktop site, right? You'll no longer have to do that. The rendering of the website in this aspect ratio is perfect. So the way the originator actually wanted you to consume that website or that content gets represented here. So there is no compromise in terms of whether you are watching any form of or any aspect ratio of content.
You as the director of MX mobile business for Samsung India, what was your first reaction when you saw the shift from the traditional aspect ratio of phone to the new foldable that we have?
So Actually, good question. So when we were told about this product, we were also trying to figure out as to why or how. So because until unless we are able to answer that question, there is no way we can actually tell the consumers. And the truth lies when you compare it side by side. No matter how much I tell you, until and unless you start using content in this, you will never know what you had been missing out on.
Basically, it's about the experience.
It is about the experience. Once you experience this device and see how the content is actually rendered on the device, and the immersiveness increase that you get, it's phenomenal. So it's all about experience.
Now that we have more than ever options in the foldable series, 3 to be precise, that might also confuse a consumer who wants to probably get their first foldable or something like that. So how were you, how would you help them to differentiate between these 3 foldables?
Perfect. Okay. So the way we approach this challenge or this issue, first of all, it's a good issue to have.
Yep.
But
it's better to have more options
yes,
rather
but
than not having.
I think the way we are approaching it is the challenge for us, or the task for us is to explain to the customer which foldable. I think till 3 years or 4 years back, our job was why foldables. We had to explain to consumer, okay, why this is required. It's a bigger real estate. You can do a lot of multitasking. It's good for content consumption and stuff like that. But now I think which foldable is the question that we have to answer for the consumer. And I think in terms of the way the 3 different consumers are for these 3, I think once consumer experiences, they can figure out which one of the devices is they are gravitating towards. Because it is very, very intuitive in terms of, you see, if I am, my main job with the smartphone is productivity, right? Yep. I'm on the go, I'm a professional, I want to read emails, do this, blah, blah, blah. Fold 8 Ultra is my device. If I am consuming content, creating content, shooting content, then is where I go into a Fold 8. However, if I value more pocketability, flexibility, and I want some crazy shots which I cannot take with any other phone available, that is the Flip 8 for me.
Okay. The smartphone market is going through what I like to call RAM-ageddon. Given that Samsung is also a major manufacturer for memory, how do you view this, and is this shaping your product strategy in any way?
See, okay. I think from a consumer standpoint, if I talk about, consumer always values what proposition that particular device is delivering to them. Sure. I think talk about pricing or RAM-ageddon, like you are saying, it's all a derivation. If you are able to deliver the right proposition to the right set of consumers, the consumers will buy into what you are trying to deliver to them. And I think with these 2 new devices or these 3 new devices, that's what we are trying to do. That's how we have crafted how do we want to communicate to the consumer and what does this device brings to the table. Now, whether it is the display, which is the brightest ever, whether it is a battery which is now 5000 mAh, or whether it is an all-new flex, titanium flex technology which has made the devices even slimmer. And like the Fold 8 for that matter is the world's lightest fold that we have created. I think these propositions will, we believe and we are confident that will be a big hit with the consumers.
So when we talk about the foldable, Samsung was the very first company that brought in the foldables in the space. But how has the foldable customer evolved over the past few years, and are you seeing more first-time buyers entering the space, or has the growth been driven by existing customers upgrading?
Okay, so I think it's a mix of both. Of course, whenever you start a new category, you always get people from outside, right? Because there is no base. Yep. But over the years, now we are into the 8th generation, right?
And 8 generations are a lot. I mean, you've had like years to learn from your customers and make the product better.
So the way I will answer this is, it's a healthy mix of both. You will have form factor loyalists who either prefer a book type or a flip type, right? So you have those set of loyalist consumers, and then you have the first timers coming in, because as smartphone becomes even more integral in our lives, it becomes an extremely, extremely important thing on which we probably do almost everything, right? In terms of connecting to the internet, this is our primary and in a lot of cases, the sole device which helps us connect to the internet. And therefore, a lot of consumers want to do more with their devices. And that is where the foldables actually come in terms of addressing something that a normal bar type phone cannot do.
You just said that smartphones are now becoming very, very important, and I totally agree. But AI is second thing that is becoming very, very important for smartphones and for users.
Yes.
So when we talk about Galaxy AI, and it's now continuing to expand and getting better, but how do you decide whether a feature should run entirely on device or should it be, be relying on the cloud? So what sort of discussion is there when you're coming up with new ideas and features like this?
Samsung's philosophy has always been about openness and giving the control to the consumers. And that is true for Galaxy AI as well. The answer to your question, consumer decides. We have given both the options to the consumer. For example, if we talk about photo editing through AI, right? Generative image. Yeah. If the customer in settings selects only on-device processing, there is no data that goes out of the device. The entire image generation happens within the device. Yep. If the consumer chooses, then that data can be done based through cloud. Now, both technologies have their own advantages and disadvantages, but Samsung's approach has always been hybrid to give that choice to the consumer. For example, any on-device processing, it is much faster. You don't need internet, right? But any processing which happens on the cloud, yes, it does take time, but then the results are more up-to-date. For here, you will have to wait for a software update that comes. And so both have their own pros and cons. And I think that choice from our side should always be with the consumer, because there will be certain things that you don't want to be sent outside the device. Right. But then there will be certain things which you will be, okay, this is not sensitive, this is not personal, and I want to see a result which has much more learning capabilities. So yes, I can allow that thing to go. So it's the choice which has been given to the consumer.
The toggle for on-device intelligence. I gave this feedback to one of your competitors when they're coming up with the revamped version of OS, that this is something very good. I was using the S25 Ultra back then, and I showed them then there should be something like this so that on-device intelligence can be, toggled, it can be switched. And I know that what data is it that I am letting go and I have on my device. So last two questions that I have. Samsung has been on the forefront of foldables since the beginning. And looking back, what do you think is the biggest lesson that you've learned from building this category over years and being a leader in it?
So I think the biggest lesson, what we have learned from our consumers is that we need to create a right balance in order for consumer to buy into our proposition. Now, when I say balance, I mean that it doesn't necessarily have to have everything crammed into it. It needs to have the right balance to deliver that right experience that the consumer is asking for. I mean, case in point, Fold 8 Ultra. Yes, we have bumped up the battery to 5000 mAh. We could have chosen to increase it even further because we had a new technology. But then the compromise that you will have to make is to make the device thicker. Those are the balances that you have to create. And it is a continuous feedback from the consumers to us that what is that right balance to achieve from a consumer, because at the end of the day, this device needs to be pocketable, this device needs to be ergonomic. At the same time, customer does not want to make any compromise when shifting from a, let's say, normal bar type phone to a foldable phone. So that right balance, how do we minimize those compromises that a customer does? I think Fold 8 Ultra, we are very close to achieving it. It has the flagship display. It is even brighter than S26 Ultra. It has almost the same camera setup as S26 Ultra, a similar battery, very close fast charging. So yeah, no compromises, have the right balance. That's your bullseye.
That's the mantra.
Yeah.
And last question that I have, I know that foldable market has grown a lot, but still, if you might have noticed maybe from your researches and from your market surveys or whatever, but what do you think is the biggest misconception about foldables that people still have and you're working on it to fix?
I think people still think that it is a niche technology. That is one. And I'm saying from a general people perspective, those who have bought into understand that it is no longer a niche. And the durability aspect of it. I think over the period of 7 to 8 years, we have come very close to perfection in terms of what durability and what ergonomic pocketability this device can deliver to the consumer. I think that is still a misconception. I will not say misconception, but people still feel that way, and we are working towards it. And I think the only way to correct that direction is through delivering experience. Once the consumer experiences these devices, is when the consumer will understand that this is no longer a niche segment. It's a mainstream. It is as good as any flagship smartphone that is out there.
All right. Thanks a lot for having an
Thank you.
interaction with us, Akshay. That is it for this one. I'll see you in the next one.